Welcome to Radiclun's Dogs and welcome to the 2022 season review. Coming up. Best qualifying of the season. Welcome to Radiclun's Dogs, welcome to the 2022 season review. If you haven't seen this channel before, this is a Mazda MX-5 Championship in the United Kingdom. I'm a privateer racer. There are plenty of teams that race in this championship as well. The car itself is basically a standard Mazda MX-5 or Miata. It's got the 1.6 engine, it's a Mark 1, and it is 960 kilos, so it's quite stripped out compared to your normal road-going car. So this car is certainly not road legal for a whole bunch of different reasons. It runs standard tyres, so we're running Avon tyres this year, and that's just basically who sponsors the championship. We are running Gas Gold Pros as the coilover, and that's standard. Every car that you see will be running that same spec. And we have all the safety equipment that you'd expect in a modern race car racing on circuits in the United Kingdom. We do race all over the country. This first race though is up at Silverstone, so you've seen the start of the race. We qualify kind of mid-pack, and we do have a team with us. The team very dedicated to the success of Radiclun's Dogs, but again, we're all amateurs, so we're all kind of just trying our hand at this. None of us are paid to do this, and none of us are sort of in our day jobs. None of us work on cars for our day jobs either. So this is really very much a sort of weekend activity for us all. Anyway, so you see here that we are in the first race of the season, avoiding contact as a car facing the other direction. That's Jamie Turner in car 9. That was probably the most dramatic moment of that particular race. But we managed to finish more or less mid-pack in this race, and you can see what the team felt about that next.
He loves that number. Right slap bang in the middle.
Not too good, but not too bad. Just right. Just right. Yeah. Someone's got to be 16th, mate.
There's actually a similar story in race 2. Again, 17th, started 17th, finished 17th. There were plenty of overtakes in the race, so it's certainly worth checking out the race if you're interested in it. But a relatively clean race actually, no contact with other cars. Racing here with Robert Greensmith, down into Stowe, pulling off an overtake, which is nice to see. Well, back to Snetterton this time, racing at the Snetterton 300 circuit. We didn't do any practice for this one, so we went straight into qualifying and qualified quite low down. At Silverstone we had to do a day of testing on the Friday, but we sort of turned up on the Saturday morning, went straight into qualifying for Snetterton. I have raced there before, but it's actually quite dramatic. First lap or so, you can see we made up loads of positions off the start, which is great actually, considering we qualified quite low down. And we can see the wheel contacting, and we ended up losing it and can't really see through the dust. So we had a great start, then lost quite a few places. So it's just one of those things. It was a very dramatic race. It's probably one of the best overtakes of the season actually. You can see actually the cars stacking up on the last corner of the lap here, and it's really difficult to pick a braking point. Just locked a little bit of a wheel, but got past Jamie Turner there again in car number 9, and I think that was one of the cleanest overtakes we did in the season actually. It's the trickiest one anyway. There were quite a few clean overtakes, and Jamie Turner though definitely came back at us later in the race. Although, as with Mazdas, if you start fighting for position, you start backing up into the pack, so sometimes you get saved by the person behind. So there's definitely fighting going on behind with Jamie. So Jamie's going to have to defend and attack at the same time. You're often doing that in a Mazda race. But you can kind of hear the wheel contacting the bodywork there, which is not good. I think we're just slightly too low, and that did unsettle the car a bit. And again, it's one of those things that you have to pick up in testing if you did the testing, but we didn't. You can see kind of yeah, if we end up fighting here with Jamie, quite a few laps, and Snetterton's a great circuit. It's quite wide, quite a lot of positions for overtaking, but also you can it is defensible as well. You can see Robert Greensmith here a bit later on in the race having a moment of his own. I think he got caught out by the speed differential and ended up lifting off. And you can see here, this is the very last lap of the race, I think, with George Grant. We're side by side with George, pretty much half a lap. This is one of the best races of the season. So if it's only one race you go and have a look at afterwards, maybe this is the one to pick actually. You can see still side by side with George, still side by side with George, and we're still side by side as we go through this sort of infield section for Snetterton. It's otherwise quite a big power circuit. Obviously, Mazda would lose out to some of the more powerful cars, but obviously we're all in Mazdas and all got the same engine pretty much. But some people do spend more than others, and you can see actually out on the marbles. And although we did lose a couple of places there, and actually over the line, 0.1 seconds, which, believe it or not, is not the closest finish we had all season. Race 2, we unfortunately have a bit of contact here, and you can see got sandwiched there, and we'll go back to a replay of that. Here's the first contact we have of the season. Unfortunately, it's not the worst bit of contact we had, but you can see Marcus Bailey there on the inside, sort of in a way forcing a position through. I think it's a racing incident. It's turn 1, there's 3 cars, 3 until 1 doesn't go, end up basically contacting both sides of the car there. Later in the race, still some good racing. The tracking, by the way, is massively out after that contact. When I got back to the workshop, my garage, did do some checks, and it was miles out, but still managing to put an overtake. And so actually an excellent race out at Snetterton, a good couple of races. A bit further down, so points wise, that was it. That was the spin. You know what? We would have finished 21st. So still not great, but that spin didn't exactly help matters, did it? But anyway, that was Snetterton in review. But it is best qualifying of the season. Of all time, actually. Well, for me, not obviously for anyone, because that would be first. But yeah.
Thingy, so, 5th place, please. Alright, good luck. In a bit.
So next time out, we're back at Silverstone in the Grand Prix circuit. I love the Grand Prix circuit, actually. I'm not a massive fan of the Silverstone International or the National, really. But I think it's the Maggots-Beckett's complex that joined up at in the Grand Prix circuit. That's sort of one of the best bits of the race circuit, really. So I do like the Grand Prix circuit. And we did qualify 13th, which is our best qualifying of the year, which should mean we were actually up against some faster cars compared to last time out. You can see Alan Hawkins behind us in that puzzle coloured car going past us, so we are getting mugged a bit down this straight, and you can kind of see actually we did end up a lot of battling, a bit of bump drafting as well going on there. So we did manage to keep this position, I think. Again, Silverstone, one of those really wide circuits, so room for probably 4 Mazdas abreast probably at some points of the race. But here you can see kind of side by side through this infield section here, and actually we're managing to hold off, and you can kind of see everyone attacking everyone else. It's one of those things that you kind of, as a slipstream, gets developed really easily at Silverstone. And you can kind of hear in the car here, we haven't really sorted out that tyre contacting the bodywork. It's proving a bit stubborn, actually. I mean, again, it's one of those things that if we were running a team of professionals, we'd have sorted it out straight away. But I think what we really need to do is bite the bullet and alter the ride height. But I was kind of a bit reluctant to do that. So yeah, you can kind of hear the bodywork still contacting. But again, Silverstone. Again, this first race was actually quite good, so he finished 14th, good haul of points, despite getting past there, down back straight. race 2, we certainly didn't go so well. So in this race, we did have a bit more contact, avoiding Graham Rumsey, who was spinning in front of us there. So Rumsey going all the way back to the back now. Now we're side by side with Robert Greensmith as we sort of drag down the international pitch straight. And at this point of the season, actually, the car is pulling really well. I think it does lose a few horses as we go through the year. It probably needs to go back to the dyno. But you see here the sequence which leads up to a bit of contact. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. It was really difficult to keep abreast of where everyone was. We end up leaving the circuit and rejoining safely, but then moving across to the racing line. But there's actually 2 cars there. I saw one of them, but not the other one, and we end up contacting there. And yeah, just a stupid mistake. Actually, later in the race, we find. Well, actually, we'll do a replay of this, but just a kind of bit of a sneak preview. There is actually some more contact later in the race, unfortunately, as well. Another one of these things that you can see here, moving across, and in a way, difficult. Always kind of tend to blame myself in incidents like this, and maybe this was my fault, but yeah, I tend to blame myself more often than not for things like that. Later in the race, actually, I wasn't looking to go for the overtake, but Tim Storer here ahead just brakes so early, and I'm like, wow, hold on a sec, I'm all the way alongside, and the door closes. I put my hand up straight away. I mean, that door was always going to close, and I really should have just followed with the braking point and picked a different point.
That side.
Yeah, had a bit of contact.
No shit, we heard it. Genuine.
Pep talk was keep it safe.
Oh, the 3D printed headlights survived.
Fantastic. Good. The one thing you can replace cheaply. What about the rest of it?
You can see the team are particularly supportive of my efforts. Anyway, so they are actually very good. Couldn't do racing without them. At Brands Hatch, then, this is basically midpoint of the season. Nice summer. Now I'm recording this in the depths of winter, and it's nice seeing summer actually on your computer screen. Anyway, Brands Hatch, another fairly decent result. Very much mid-pack. Started 14th, finished 14th. Certainly lots of racing in between, and not much contact, of any contact, I think, in this race. So good to be back performing kind of mid-pack, which is good because actually by this point of the season, actually we're knocking on the door of a top 10 championship finish actually. But anyway, stick around. Next time we'll do the second half of the 2022 season.